Well, hello, and I want to start this week's Real Love Revolution episode with a question. Do you know the difference between healthy guilt and toxic shame? Because they can look a lot alike, but they are completely different. My name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, the founder of Boundary Boot Camp, and the upcoming Real Love Revolution in April 2018. So let's dive in. This is a pretty serious episode today. Many of you wrote in and asked me to cover more about toxic shame. And so here I am. You ask and you shall receive from me. So let's first start to establish what are some behaviors that indicate that you may be experiencing a lot of toxic shame or even a little bit of toxic shame. So we'll start with the difference between the two. What is healthy guilt? Healthy guilt is when we feel bad because we believe we have done something wrong, right? So if healthy guilt could say something, it would say, I think I did something wrong. That's what healthy guilt would say. Toxic shame is a different story. Toxic shame feels like you are something wrong. So toxic shame would say, I am wrong. I am incorrect. I am monumentally broken. That's what toxic shame says. It doesn't decipher between behavior, which guilt is talking about a behavior. You feel bad about something you did, perhaps a wrong choice or a mean thing that you said to someone, which we all do those things because we're human beings. Toxic shame is a deeper feeling of something being really wrong with you that you want to hide. And this can be very confusing to try to recognize the difference between these two things. Because listen, we don't want to vilify appropriate shame, right? If you do something wrong, there's an appropriate amount of shame that will drive our behavior to fix it, to deliver a heartfelt apology, to take responsibility for our actions. But where this gets confusing is that we have this inner mean voice we can have, which I talked about last week or 2 weeks ago in the video about the inner critic, right? Sometimes the inner mean voice is really your conscience saying, hey, that wasn't cool. You did something that was not correct. When you have an inner mean voice that is always putting you down and making you feel less than and making you feel crappy about yourself, that is shame pretending to be your conscience, right? That's toxic shame pretending to be your conscience. So let's identify. And I've created a questionnaire for you that you can take. So all you need to do is download it. There's a link. So right now, just listen and you can download it later because it'll be a little bit more involved. I have a couple of questions that I'm going to start with. And the first one is about self-destructive behavior. Think about how much self-destructive behavior you engage in your life. That could be over drinking, overeating, doing drugs, having too much sex with people you don't know, being a romance addict. All of those things are self-destructive behaviors. The second one is about your inner mean critic. Is that always going? Is that always happening? The third thing is about hiding. Do you hide what's really going on in your life? Either things that you're actually doing or something that someone else may be doing to you because you're ashamed. And you especially hide that from those who may help you. That is another one of the questions to decipher if you have a lot of toxic shame in your life. The fourth question is, do you lie? Do you lie about the way that you feel about things or what you think about things because you don't feel worthy? You don't feel that your opinion is worthy. So you sort of lie to go along with the crowd or to not reveal something that you think someone else will disapprove of. The next question is about your own fear. Do you have a profound fear of rejection? And does that keep you from having intimate relationships. It's almost like you'll end the relationship before it can even get anywhere because you are afraid they will eventually end it once they find out how terrible you are, or if they really, really knew you. The next question is about loneliness. Do you feel chronically lonely? Because people who have a lot of toxic shame are always protecting themselves and protecting the truth of themselves from other people because they feel that what they are is bad, not acceptable, will make other people run away in horror, basically. And so even if you're with people, you can experience this sense of chronic loneliness because no one actually knows you. The next question is about childhood trauma. If you experienced abuse, it could be verbal, sexual, emotional abuse. This also can set the seeds for toxic shame in your adult life. And another question is about experiencing traumatic events in adulthood. It could be something that you feel like was your fault. So if you had an accident that left someone paralyzed or something like that, that can create toxic shame. If you're in the military, if you did things in combat that you feel ashamed of, even though it was what you needed to do at the time, this also can perpetuate toxic shame and keep it going in our adult lives. So, going back to the childhood, because this is really where so much of it is planted. If you had a parent who shamed you, there are parents who straight up say, I am ashamed of you. That is shameful. What were you thinking? How could you do that? Or a very rejecting parent. I had a client who had a father who rejected her because she was overweight. He was very mean, and he weighed her at night. He would make her get on a scale in front of her other brothers and sisters and then ridicule her if she gained weight. I mean, I think she was in third grade when this was happening. It was so incredibly painful, but it also had her internalize this experience of the way that she was being repulsive to other people. And she did grow up to have a massive weight issue in her adult life. And until we started unpacking this shame, this toxic shame, because then she internalized her father's voice and her inner critic was so brutal. So that's on a constant basis. She was basically berating herself inside and putting herself down and making herself feel terrible, which of course does not do anything except it just perpetuates the shame and has it grow. And all of these things, toxic shame really, really does get in the way of your happiness. Because even when you're alone, you're not happy. It's not that someone else is doing it to you. It's that you're keeping it going. And not because you're crazy. There is a reason why. If you're nodding your head and saying yes, and if this is resonating with you, there's a reason why you are this way. But you're not alone. And there are ways to heal from toxic shame. So let's move into what are some of these ways. And you guys, something like toxic shame, you will not heal in one, Real Love Revolution video, right? This is life. It takes time. But what I want you to know and why I put in the questionnaire in the downloadable little handout for you is that I want you to know that you're not alone. I want you to know that it is fixable. And that just understanding what's going on with you can help alleviate some of the heaviness of this shame, because you don't deserve to feel this way, my friend. You really, truly don't. So let's start with a few actions that you can start to take. One of them is having a mindfulness practice. So why does this matter? Meditation on a daily basis, this creates space for you to respond instead of react. What happens when you have a lot of toxic shame is that those grooves in your brain, right? These neural pathways are very, very deep. And then they get activated really easily. So someone may be saying something to you that they're not meaning to shame you, like, oh, maybe, you could call me if you're going to be late. Let's say someone says that to you. You might react in a very shameful way, an exaggerated way, like they're rejecting you monumentally or telling you you're terrible, when they're not, if you don't have any space internally. So the mindfulness piece, right, the awareness piece is where the questionnaire comes in, obviously. But then we move into this mindfulness piece where you need to create expansion in your mind so you can take a deep breath and respond from now, from this present moment. If that's a good friend and she's making a simple request for you to call her if you're going to be late, she's not trying to shame you. And with space, you can respond not from a place of toxic shame, but from a place of like, okay, I will do that. That's a reasonable ask, and I can do that. The second thing that you can do is you have to police your thoughts for all of this shaming language and behavior, because remember, we internalize. If you had parents or caregivers who were very shaming of you, you've internalized that language. So you have to police your thoughts so that you can find what is you and what is someone else. You don't need to keep that shaming language going, right? You have to be aware of what is happening. Don't just accept it. And once you identify it, you have to get committed to not going there, to not using that language. And that's going to bring us into step number 3, which is flipping that inner script to one of compassion. You deserve your own compassion. It doesn't need to be reserved just for other people. If you make a mistake, find compassionate language to say it's okay. You're tired. You are a human being. We all make mistakes. We'll do it again, or we'll do it better next time. But it's not about making yourself feel bad or reinforcing your fear that you are monumentally broken with this toxic shame, because I'm telling you, I promise you, you're not. But you have to want to change it. And the real deal is that even if it was other people who planted those seeds, at this point in your journey, it's your job to figure out how to heal from this toxic shame, or it will rob you of your happiness for the rest of your life, which we don't want. Correct? Correct. So let's move on into the last 2 things that I wanted to say about this. Was that you can't expect it to happen overnight, because it didn't start overnight, right? This is something that took your life to build. Oh, I think my phone is ringing, but that's okay. We're just going to let it ring. Moving into patience. You've got to have patience, which is so incredibly challenging, because we all want everything right now. Well, this process takes time. But I'm here to guide you. Try not to get frustrated. I just want you to dial into the hope that you can change it, because I know that you can. And I'll be doing more videos about this and more videos about the fix of toxic shame. But in this episode, I wanted to share with you some questions that you could ask yourself so that you gain clarity on how much toxic shame may be negatively driving your life right now. So I hope that you liked, we'll put quotes around liked because it's a little bit of a heavy episode, but I hope that you found this episode helpful, because that's what the Real Love Revolution video series is all about. I want it to add value to your life. And if you did, please share it on your social media platforms and with the people in your life who you think it may help. I hope you have an amazing, amazing week. And as always, take care of